Hello and welcome to the live premiere of Wanted, the show where you can help solve crime. Tonight, Wanted's forensic expert Xanthe Mallett needs our help. She's investigating the mystery of Angel, a young, unidentified woman whose remains were found at one of Australia's most notorious crime locations.
When you consider the circumstances under which she must have been put here, it really is unimaginable.
Xanthe has worked with police around the world to crack some of the coldest of cold cases. Also, alcohol-fuelled street violence with tragic consequences.
They're not going to get their son back. He's not going to get married. He's wiped out a whole family.
Experienced crime investigator Matt Doran on bashings and shootings that have left families shattered forever.
We've been given a life sentence.
And Wanted's very own crime buster, Terry Dalton, with exclusive pictures of a violent hold-up. For over 40 years, Terry's been fighting crime. Now he needs your help putting crooks behind bars. On Wanted, we're working in partnership with police around Australia to help solve crime. And they're standing by right now to take your calls. You're watching Wanted. I'm Sandra, Sully. First up, as we go to air tonight, police in Melbourne need the nation's help. They're hunting for two men, wanted in relation to separate alcohol-related street brawls. One ended in a tragic death. They happened in Melbourne, but the culprits could now be anywhere in Australia. Police have asked us to show you some previously unseen CCTV footage. And as you watch it, remember the anti-violence catchphrase, one punch can kill. Matt Doran investigates the two incidents.
Everyone loves a good time. Alcohol is often part of the fun. But there's a tipping point. And that's exactly what happened on this night. It's Australia Day 2013. Two groups of friends mill outside a nightclub in central Melbourne. They'd been kicked out after an altercation. It's now after 2 a.m. A woman takes off a stiletto and throws it at a man. Then she hits him. All hell breaks loose. Everyone descends on the man in the white shirt on the ground. He struggles up and stumbles into an alcove where he keeps being beaten. The battering continues as the pack maul him across the road. He's knocked down for the last time, now unconscious. He could easily be dead. The attack lasts almost a minute. Miraculously, the victim survives. He suffers facial injuries and smashed teeth. He's so traumatised, he won't speak publicly. Detective Senior Constable Larissa Murphy needs your help.
There's one particular male I want to speak to who's wearing a white T-shirt and a black cap, which is a baseball cap on backwards.
This is the man. White T-shirt, jeans, runners. And here is an enhanced CCTV image of him.
He's one of the people who I've identified on the footage as being quite a violent participant in the fight.
Let's rewind and examine exactly what the wanted man did. First, he joins the fray. He lays in 3 kicks, then starts punching and kicking. By the end of the attack, he's landed at least 3 punches and 7 kicks. Each had the potential to kill.
If anyone sitting at home does know these people, I would say that there's a fair chance that they'd be able to tell me who they were.
Now, as we noted, the victim of that assault is just too traumatised and too fearful of retribution to speak publicly. Now, of course, none of us expects a night out to end in violence. But in fact, almost 3,500 Australians are hospitalised for brain injury caused by alcohol-related assaults every year. For some, though, the consequences are far worse.
When you lose a child, it's like you've had your heart torn out of your chest. You got this aching sadness that's inside you when you pine for your child.
The 22-year-old was knocked unconscious during a brawl outside the QBH nightclub on May 27. Police say he was trying to break up a clash between his mates and 3 men walking from nearby Crown Casino.
The attack on Shannon McCormack took place 6 years ago, but the memories haven't dimmed.
Well, Shannon was one of those gentle giants. He was a real friendly kid. He had all his friends from his whole school life, in playgroup, kinder, primary school, secondary school, football, an army of friends. And they used to call him the Link because he'd unite all the groups of friends. And if any hostilities broke out, he was the peacemaker. He'd always smooth things over.
When this happened, he was trying to break up a fight.
One of the guys sort of took 3 or 4 steps back and then went round behind his back and then took a flying leap and King hit him in the side of the head. And the witnesses said he was unconscious on his feet before he hit the ground. I mean, Shannon was a big boy, he was 6'3". I mean, you had to have a hell of a punch to bring him down.
And obviously there was contact with the ground.
Yeah, his head was cracked about the size of the palm of your head right here was all smashed in, and we just went into a panic meltdown to get him to hospital. And then we get into hospital and they just said, he's got 2 hours to live, and if we don't operate, and then we went through this nightmare.
That 2 hours stretched into days.
He was okay for a day almost, and then his brain started swelling up again. So then they cut the top of your head off and they put it in a fridge and let your brain swell out the top of your head, and they hope you survive it.
6 years on, the man who King hit Shannon McCormack has never been caught. But in February, the homicide squad released CCTV footage of a man they want to speak to in relation to the attack. This is that man in the distinctive purple top. As he mixes with friends, Shannon McCormack is nearby, fighting for his life. Police have now released images of the man.
They had a person of interest that the police are after walk up and talk to a group of friends. The group of friends you can see quite clearly in the background, and you would have thought that somebody would have recognised them by now.
After more than 6 years with the passage of time, does it get any easier?
We're not going to get our son back. He's not going to get married. We're not going to have his children. He's wiped out a whole family. He's wiped out my grandchildren. That's the part that's hardest to give. And the damage he's caused my other children, that's really hard to forgive. I mean, the pain and hurt that they feel. And my wife and the rest of our family, they're all affected, and all his friends are affected.
This man may be the key to seeing justice served. But justice will never heal the wounds of a young life destroyed.
I just deeply miss him. He was my friend as well. I mean, it's very, very hard.
So, Sandra, an absolutely heartbreaking story, and it's also sobering to remember, I guess, a very similar tragedy. It has now been 1 year since Sydney teenager Thomas Kelly, 17-year-old Sydney teenager Thomas Kelly, was punched and killed in Sydney's King's Cross, another victim of alcohol-fuelled violence. And, of course, Andrew, our thoughts go out to both the Kelly and the McCormack families.
They do indeed. Thank you, Matt. Well, joining us now from Melbourne, Detective Inspector John Potter. Firstly, Inspector, is alcohol-fuelled violence across Australia as bad as it appears?
Well, we're seeing, Sandra, cases from a homicide investigation point of view that certainly involve alcohol, but we're also equally seeing cases of illicit drug use and people that are just plain violent in the community.
Now, it's been 6 years since Shannon was killed. Has there been any significant intelligence?
Yes, there has. Early in the year, we reviewed all the CCTV tape, and we were able to identify a man in the crowd, a man in his 20s, who we believe can help us with the investigation.
Now, we also believe that someone may have rung up, but then hung up before they could pass on any critical information.
Yes, that's correct. We would ask anyone that can help us to ring police, whether they think their information is of particular importance or not. It's most important that they contact police and tell us exactly what they know.
Now, Detective Inspector, the CCTV in this case obviously critical. There appears to be a number of clearly identifiable people around the person you want to speak to.
There are a number of men in the footage that you can see, and you can see the person highlighted is talking to those men as if he knows them. So any of those people that you see in that footage can help us with this case. We need to talk to the man highlighted in the CCTV. That man may be innocent. That man may be able to explain to us what happened that night. But we think he can help us, and we think the other people in the footage can also help us.
Let's hope they do. Detective Inspector John Potter, thanks for joining us tonight on Wanted.
Thank you.
So police need your help tonight. If you've got any information on the 2 men wanted in Melbourne or any of the cases in tonight's show, simply call Crime Stoppers now. The number is 1800 333 000. And we're crossing now to just one of the places your crucial calls are taken, one of the largest Crime Stoppers call centres in Australia. And joining us from there, our seasoned crime expert, Neil Mercer.
Thanks, Sandra. What I can tell you is that around Australia at peak times, there are more than 100 trained operators taking calls from members of the public, gathering information. That information is passed on to frontline police. People can also go online and people can also offer information anonymously. It will be investigated.
Thank you, Neil. We'll come back to you a little later to catch up on any developments on the stories in tonight's show. Now, you can find us at Twitter. The address @WantedTVHQ, #WantedTV. Now to our very own crime buster, retired Detective Superintendent Terry Dalton. And Terry's security cameras have captured a particularly violent hold-up in Western Australia.
They sure have, Sandra. This is a real low act. It's just after 1 a.m. last Wednesday night at the Easy Plus store in the Perth suburb of Cardinia. The beanie-wearing person of interest lures the person working in the shop back to the counter and then pow! The POI bashes him with a steel bar. Look how many times he hits him. When he finishes the attack, he forces the man to open the till. But the POI gets away with just a handful of cash, small change really. Now we need your help. Look at his face. Look at his clothes. Do you know him? We need to get these sort of people off our streets. Strike your own blow against crime. If you can help, get onto Crime Stoppers now.
So, Terry, I guess you've dealt with a fair bit of crime in your time.
I certainly have, Sandra. I've seen it all. These types of crimes are happening too often. But today, with the help of CCTV, there's a much better chance of catching these crooks.
Let's hope so. Thank you, Terry. Still to come on Wanted, do you know Angel? We need your help identifying a young woman whose remains were found at one of Australia's most notorious crime scenes.
We just can't understand why this person hasn't been identified.
The Tassie town living in fear after the cold-blooded murder of one of its favourite sons.
Knew his routine, they knew what time he was going to get home, and they were here waiting for him.
And can you help us find Bethany, the 13-year-old who's been missing for almost 4 months?
Just let someone know that you're safe. That's what I need to know, is you're safe. And then we'll go from there.
Welcome back. Now to the story of 2 heartbroken parents whose agony could be relieved with one simple phone call. Their daughter, 13-year-old Bethany Neville, went missing almost 4 months ago. She hasn't been seen since she said goodbye, Mum, and headed off to school from her home on the New South Wales south coast. Where she is, whether she's been lured away, whether she's safe or in danger, that's what we want your help in finding out. What happens when your 13-year-old daughter goes missing in a city of over 4 million people? Where do you turn? Where do you search?
Excuse me, mate. Excuse me, mate. With the police.
John Neville has been searching for his daughter Bethany for 4 months. Sydney's King's Cross is just one place he's been trawling.
Excuse me, buddy. Just wondering if you've seen this girl?
No, I'm sorry.
No? No. Excuse me.
It's heartbreaking to imagine what he's going through.
I don't know if I'm going to crack or be okay or what. And I guess it's the not knowing that's what's doing it to me.
What I'm hoping and what I'm feeling when I'm not hysterical and when I'm trying to think logically is she hasn't just run away and gone to Sydney and stood in the middle of Sydney and said, I've run away. She's known where to go. And she's with a group of people. There's people keeping her safe. She's not on the streets.
Tonight, Bethany's dad is joined in his search by Detective Sergeant Paul Connery.
Hi, how you going? Just from the police. I wonder if you could help us, guys.
You seen this girl at all?
No. You seen her around? We've had quite a few unconfirmed sightings in King's Cross. More sightings there than anywhere else. It's a dangerous place for a 13-year-old.
If she did end up here, what's become of her? As far as anybody knows, she's alone, with no food, no protection and no shelter. Why do you think she left home?
I think there's something that's changed her that made her run away, and I think it's hard to put my finger on what that is.
Until she disappeared, Bethany spent most weekends with her dad in Sydney. During the week, she lived with her mum, Tracy, in Kiama, 2 hours south. She was a Year 8 student at Kiama High, and on March 13, it was just another school day.
She got up extra early to go to school, had a shower, breakfast was all ready. And when it was 8 o'clock, I was in the kitchen. I just remember her looking at the clock saying, the bus is coming now, I'll go. As far as I knew, she went to school and I would be picking her up at 4:30 from her singing lesson.
But Bethany never arrives at school. Instead, she comes here, the local train station, and buys a one-way ticket to Sydney. She's wearing her school sports uniform, but not for long. Before she gets on the train, Bethany starts to alter her appearance. By the time it pulls in at Central, she's a totally different girl. This is an actual CCTV photo of Bethany at 10:58 a.m. that day. It's the last photo we have of her before she disappeared. Dressed for a new life in the city, Bethany leaves this busy station and simply disappears. No one, friends or family, have heard from her since.
I went to pick her up at 4:30 and saw her singing teacher, and Mary said she hadn't shown up. I got on the phone to ring her friends to see where she was, and they said she didn't go to school. I was in a blind panic, and then I just started ringing everybody. I was ringing my friends, her dad, my son, and and then the police.
Bethany left behind her laptop and her mobile phone. Her age is what is the most unusual part about it. A 13-year-old who's never run away before, and that's a grave concern.
When I'm lying in bed at night, thinking of different things that could have happened to my daughter, it's sort of like being in a dark place. The darkness is thinking about where my daughter might be and what's going on with her life, you know.
Bethany left us very few clues as to what she might have been thinking or planning. But we do know she loved to perform, and maybe that's the key to finding her.
Absolutely. She likes to do it, she likes to dress up. She would obviously keep changing that appearance.
There's no evidence Bethany has been caught up in the seedy side of the entertainment business, but it's a thought that still troubles her father.
That'd be my worst fear if she's alive, to go into that part of that area of our society, if you like.
Bethany was a keen singer. Now her friends are singing a song for her.
Home is where the heart is, and life has only started for...
Her friends are desperate to find Bethany, and they're appealing to her the best way they know how.
Voice unheard, but sang so proud. Wherever it be, you'll hear the sound of voices calling you home.
We're all like a family here, and it's just really heartbreaking to know that at our next concert and in rehearsals, like, she's just not there, and we don't know if she'll ever come back. So it's upsetting. Yeah.
I have a daughter myself, the same age, and that would be my greatest fear, as I know it is for the parents. I really do feel for them. I've searched hours now as a CCTV and been unable to confirm sightings. That is very frustrating in itself.
If Bethany was watching right now, what would you say to her?
Beth, I love you. Your mother loves you. We just want to know that you're safe.
Just let someone know that you're safe. That's what I need to know, is you're safe. And then we'll go from there. Yep.
Joining us now, the man who's heading the search for Bethany, Detective Sergeant Paul Connery. Paul, what are the best leads you've got so far?
Since the 13th of March, when Bethany was seen to get off the railway at Central, our CCTV footage was picked up there. Since that time, we've had a few unconfirmed sightings in the King's Cross area.
Critically, though, this knapsack was identical to the one she was carrying.
Yeah, that's correct. It's not known to the family either, which is interesting that Bethany had this with her.
Curiously, though, she didn't take her mobile phone with her. It's unusual for a teenager.
Yeah, there's a few theories there, but one that shines to me would be that Bethany was planning to run away at some stage, and she's decided to take nothing with her, no communication.
In terms of social media, has she been in contact?
No, nothing.
Just completely disappeared?
That's us, yeah.
Are there any fears, though, that Bethany may become the victim of online grooming? And it's wrenching for the family to know that she disappeared at the cross.
Yeah, we've gone through Bethany's computer. Our technical people looked through her computers. There's been nothing to suggest that she was being groomed or making any mention of running away.
Now, Bethany's just turned 14, a difficult time for her parents. What's your appeal tonight to those who may have information about Bethany?
Our appeal tonight is for anyone who's got any information or any sightings of Bethany to please contact Crime Stoppers.
Detective Sergeant, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Now to another appeal for your help from our crime buster, Terry Dalton.
Thanks, Sandra. This CCTV is from an armed hold-up in Brisbane. Look closely. Two crooks are smashing their way with a sledgehammer into the Belmont Tavern. It's 1 a.m. on June 17. One bloke has a pistol. Both are wearing hoodies with distinctive logos. The guy with the gun is wearing a hoodie with Everlast on the front. The other offender, an Echo. So the logos on the hoodies are the key to identifying these crims. Someone out there knows who they are. With your help, we can put those two crooks behind bars. Back in Western Australia, police are keen to speak with this individual. He heads into a McDonald's store in the middle of Perth, but he's after more than a Big Mac and takes off with a large amount of money. Here he is again a couple of days later at a nearby Bank West branch. This time he's got a knife and he forces the teller to fill his bag with cash. Now, this bloke's not the sharpest tool in the box. You can see his face as clear as anything. Let's catch him before he strikes again.
Thanks, Terry. And, of course, the way you can help track down people like that is to get onto Crime Stoppers. The number is 1800 333 000. Now, our very own forensic scientist, Xanthe Mallett, is next. And, Xanthe, you've been investigating a puzzling 3-year-old cold case.
That's right, Sandra. It's a murder that's both perplexing and terribly, terribly sad. A young woman's remains found in the notorious Belanglo State Forest. But who she is, how she got there, and who killed her remain a mystery. Welcome back. I've investigated plenty of cases in my time as a forensic scientist. Human remains give up crucial secrets. But this case is baffling and especially sad. It's a case of a young woman police call Angel. Her body was found 3 years ago in the Belanglo State Forest, southwest of Sydney. Police don't believe she was the victim of backpacker killer Ivan Mallett, but what we do know is she was murdered. Police need your help finding out who she is and who killed her.
I was leading a ride out there and we stopped at a corner and one of the guys overshot the corner. And yeah, kind of shouted out that he'd found some bones on the ground.
Turned out there was the skull and the ribs and the vertebrae and everything sort of sitting behind a big log. You've seen the TV, you've heard the media about Ivan Mallett and all the history that comes with Belangolo, but to see some real bones out there was just a bit surreal, I think.
Three years on, Detective Sergeant Tim Atwood takes me to where the bones were found. It's an eerie feeling coming to this place. As a forensic scientist, of course I'm aware of Ivan Mallett and the infamous backpacker murders. Belangolo conjures up images of unspeakable horror.
We're actually quite deep into the forest now, aren't we? How far from the road are we going?
We have to go in about 8 or 9 kilometres.
That's quite a long way. I can't really imagine a young girl walking all this way.
No, that's highly unlikely that a young girl by herself would walk into the forest this far for any reason. Obviously, this is the trail where the trail bike riders were. So he's actually come into this area here to give himself some more room. About here is when he saw a couple of larger bones from the leg. Just on this side of this fallen tree, it was an obvious human skull.
What else do we know about her in terms of her, biographic information?
The only other thing we know about her is her height, which has been, once again, estimated between 150 and 165 centimetres tall.
Forensic examination reveals that the woman was almost certainly murdered. Police don't know how. But the bones give up other information.
We were able to obtain a full DNA profile. That DNA profile has been run through the National DNA Database, but unfortunately, we haven't had any matches.
Only one piece of clothing is found at the crime scene, a woman's T-shirt with a distinctive motif. Police release it to the public and christen the victim Angel.
We're confident that that T-shirt was worn by this girl at the time she was taken into the forest.
We can only speculate who Angel was and the circumstances that led to her death. Was she a backpacker? Did she accept a lift? Did she know her killer? Was her body dumped in the forest? Or was she murdered here in Belangolo?
It's tragic to think that all that remains of this young woman, who is the victim of a brutal murder, is an incomplete collection of bones and a T-shirt. But thankfully, forensic science has given us something else. Through state-of-the-art technology known as facial approximation, Angel now has a face.
A lot of people sort of look at a skull and go, oh yes, it's a skull, it's got sort of, eyes, nose, mouth, but don't see how uniquely different they really are. They are as uniquely different as every face in the room. So my skull is as different from your skull as our faces are.
Dr. Susan Hayes digitally adds muscles, skin and other features to Angel's skull to create an image of what she could have looked like. And this is Angel.
This is the final result.
Tim Atwood and his team go public with the image of Angel, but the leads go nowhere.
We just can't understand why this person hasn't been identified through our missing person files.
The homicide squad have DNA with no match. They have a face with no name. Perhaps forensic psychiatry has some answers.
It may very well have been a domestic homicide where someone in a dysfunctional relationship ended up murdering his partner.
Dr. Julian Parmigiani is a forensic psychiatrist. Angel may be the victim of domestic violence. She could also have lived under society's radar.
In people who've engaged in antisocial behaviour from a young age, who've been in institutions, people who've become sex workers, they become gradually disenfranchised from their friends and family and become totally isolated so no one claims them.
If the offender knows that we're covering this case this evening, do you think they'll be watching?
Well, almost certainly. This is going to be at the back of their mind for the rest of their lives, and it's going to get worse and worse because as they get older, they appreciate life, they appreciate relationships, they may have their own children, and this is just going to get louder in their conscience.
Angel must be someone's daughter. There must be a family out there desperate to know what happened to her. But for now, the closest thing she has to family are the men who found her and the detective trying to give her some dignity in death.
The absolute minimum that we need to do is identify this girl. When you consider the circumstances under which she must have been put here, it really is unimaginable.
You just hope that, I guess, somebody's not still out there wondering what's happened, you know. Somebody can finally bury this person and get some kind of closure.
Our goal is to identify and prosecute successfully the offender or offenders responsible for putting her here. That's our ultimate goal. And that would be very satisfying.
Xanthe and I are now joined by the Homicide Squad detective heading the Angel case, Tim Atwood. And Tim, you brought along a replica of the T-shirt you believe may help us identify Angel.
That's right, Sandra. This is an accurate copy of the T-shirt that we found at the crime scene. As you can see, it's quite distinctive. It's got the word angelic written across with the hearts and the wings coming out with the ribbons going down the front. I've not seen a T-shirt similar to this since the start of the investigation, and we're hoping that publicising this T-shirt will help jog people's memories.
Now, Xanthe, we're all fascinated with the process that's helped us get an image of Angel, even so much as the colour and length of her hair.
Absolutely. So a facial approximation artist has taken Angel's skull and built the soft tissues onto that. And as some hair was actually found with the remains that was very distinct lengths, then they've actually built that into the approximation that's then publicised. It's not meant to be a photographic likeness, but hopefully it will jog somebody's memory. But what I would say is if she did wear her hair back, you would notice the width of her lower face. She's quite broad, so that may be something that's going to be important in identifying her.
Tim, a special appeal tonight to viewers?
Yes, Sandra, we'd appeal to anybody who thinks they might have information regarding the T-shirt or who Angel is to contact us and let us follow that information up.
Detective Sergeant, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Well, if you have any information at all on Angel, please help. Call Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000. We want you to learn that number off by heart. You can also report crime online via the Crime Stoppers website or follow the links on Wanted TV. Next, a shocking cold-blooded murder. We need your help tracking down the killer.
The killer was laying in wait for Shane. They knew his routine. They knew what time he was going to get home. And they were here waiting for him.
Now to another appeal for your help, this time over an unsolved murder that has rocked a small country town. Our crime investigator Matt Doran has just returned from Tasmania. Matt?
Thanks, Sandra. On the 2nd of August in 2009, the community of Campbelltown in Tassie's north was shattered by the murder of popular local Shane Barker. Now, Shane simply didn't stand a chance. He was shot in the back by a killer who police believe had been lying in wait for him when Shane arrived home. This is Campbelltown, a popular stopover between Hobart and Launceston. With a population of just 900, it's a typical country community. Campbelltown is also a farm town. Tractors, sheep, fertiliser, guns, ammo and ice. The locals here love to shoot, some fish. Most, though, just roll along with the flow of country life. The Barker family has lived here for 60 years.
Come and have your meal. I don't sing out the second time.
We've been summoned, fellas. It's Sunday night, roast night. This looks fantastic. I've joined Barbara, Robert and their eldest son, Paul, for the weekly family ritual. But their youngest son is missing.
We always had that place there spare for him, and you feel, I suppose, like he's still here.
For this to have happened, it's just, I mean, I can still see him.
It's been 200 weeks, 1,400 days since my brother was in a grave. And that means that 1,400 days and 200 weeks, that killer's been out there walking the streets. I might have walked past him. My family might have.
A keen outdoors man, it seems everyone knew Shane Bones Barker.
Very big on hunting and shooting. He's always friendly and, you know, nothing to never an issue with old Bones.
He's just that sort of likeable person. He was, you know, always had a smile on his face, always friendly. Just a local lad that grew up here, part of the community all his life.
In 2009, Shane was separated from his wife of 4 years. They have a young daughter who's now 9 years old.
Look, he bounced back. We were pretty proud of him the way he had. He got a new job at Roberts, actually, with the gun dealing and fishing equipment. He was just in his element. It was his dream job.
He was so easygoing that you didn't have to try to make friends with him. You only had to speak to him and he was your friend.
But someone had a problem with Shane Barker. On the 2nd of August, as with every Sunday night, Shane finishes dinner at his parents' house and heads home.
I think he left there about 7:10, roughly. I think Dancing with the Stars come on. He said, bugger that. He said, I'm going home to watch the footy, I'd take.
In pouring rain, Shane drives 3 kilometres back to his house on the outskirts of Campbelltown.
He sort of left here and walked into a nightmare.
He probably follows his usual routine, using his headlights to turn on the house lights. Before parking his ute in the garage. Just 40 minutes after Shane arrives home, a friend calls.
Shane always used to answer his phone, or he'd always ring straight back. And he never rang back that night.
Even more unusual, Shane doesn't turn up to work the next day.
Well, Mum got a phone call from his workplace, Roberts, at about 8:20, because he used to get front up to work before 8. Wasn't there.
Barb and I went down and the place was locked.
We were hitting on all the windows and everything to see if we could wake him.
Robert and Barbara find Shane's keys on the front lawn, but they can't open the door because it's locked from the inside.
I was just hoping and praying nothing would it happen. What do you do in these circumstances? I said, I suppose it's the police.
The first officer on the scene breaks in to find Shane lying in the hallway.
When she came out and said he was dead.
From there on, we spent the whole day thinking it was a medical problem until the police arrived at 6 p.m. and told us it was murder. He'd been shot.
Police were called to this home in East Street, Campbelltown yesterday morning. Officers forced their way into the house where they found his body with gunshot wounds to his upper torso.
I just wanted to see him, and they said to me, you can't see him, he's deceased, which I knew, but I just wanted to be with him. I've always protected him, and I feel like I've let him down. Yeah.
While the murder weapon is yet to be found, forensic officers have remained at the scene all day, collecting other evidence.
Shane was shot with a .22, popular for rabbit and wallaby hunting. To this day, the killer's rifle has not been found.
Where's the case at now?
We've done a lot of work. We think we've left no stone unturned.
Detective Inspector Scott Flood is in charge of the investigation.
discovered something.
His team has been working on the case for 4 years without an arrest.
We had that scene for many days. Obviously, it was extensively forensically examined. It's the fact that it was rainy, windy the night before does contaminate the scene somewhat.
The lead investigator at the crime scene was Detective Senior Sergeant Rick Newman.
We don't know exactly where he was shot. That makes it a little bit hard, so we're guessing. One of the theories we're working on is the fact that, you know, the killer may have been up this alleyway just up here.
Right.
The garage door's just up the side there, which apparently used to exit quite a lot, so if somebody's done their homework.
So you believe, Rick, that this person would have been pretty familiar with Shane's patterns?
To me, the killer was laying in wait for Shane. They knew his routine, they knew what time he was going to get home, and they were here waiting for him.
He's basically been assassinated, and not just shot once, several times. I mean, cowardly.
Theory-wise, he could have either been shot and been left for dead by the killer, made his way inside, or whilst he's being shot, in the process of being shot, he's made his way inside and closed the door. I think he knew the killer. As an investigator, you get gut feelings, and I think there's a likelihood we may have spoken to the killer already, and that's probably the frustrating thing.
In small towns, everyone knows everyone's business, but no one seems to know who killed Bones Barker.
Whoever the offender or offenders are in this case have been tight-lipped about the whole matter, and as a result of that, the intelligence hasn't been coming through to us like it normally would in a case such as this.
Shane Bones Barker spent his days at home overlooking this cemetery, and now he's buried just 100 metres from where he was murdered. 4 years on, and Campbelltown's only murder in living memory has left this close-knit community on edge.
Everybody was wondering who was going to be next or whatever.
People assume they know everything about everybody. It's just the shock, I think, that someone could just come into your home and do such a thing, and nobody really seemed to have any idea how or why or...
It'd be good if they could sort of, finally get to the bottom of it. That's for sure.
With any crime, generally someone knows what's going on, and I implore someone to come forward and help us with the case, not only for the closure from our side of the investigation, more so for the closure for the family.
Please come forward. The least little bit of information may help solve this case.
And to the killer, I'd say, why don't you man up and admit to what you've done?
We just want to know why, more than anything now. We know we're never going to get Shane back, but the closest thing we can have is closure on this. And the only way we can do that is if someone's arrested for this.
We've been given a life sentence.
We want it solved.
So, Sandra, it is just so sad to think that 4 years have passed, and yet for the Barker family, the pain is still as raw as it has ever been. In fact, they say that the killer's ongoing freedom is only serving to exacerbate that grief in many ways. We saw that with Shane's devastated brother, Paul. He is quite literally counting down the days on a calendar that this killer is remaining on the streets. Now, it was a great honour to be invited along to join the Barker family for dinner. It was quite confronting, but also very touching to see that they still set a place for Shane at the table, and it is one of the many ways that they continue to honour Shane's memory.
Yeah, that was really heartbreaking. We feel for them tonight, but of course they're after answers. Let's hope we can get some. So for the latest, we'll cross now to the detective heading the hunt for Shane's killer, Inspector Scott Flood. Thanks for your time, Inspector. You're after our help tonight, tracking down a car that was seen near the murder scene.
That's correct, Sandra. There was a white Hilux dual cab seen in Shane Barker's street. There appeared to be a person in that having an argument with Mr Barker. That vehicle left that street and was last captured on CCTV camera footage in the town of Campbelltown, heading south towards Hobart.
Now, Inspector, I understand that as a result of some of the promos we've been running for Wanted, someone has come forward with some new information.
Look, yes, look, that is a little bit of good news already, the promos that have been on TV already. Someone over the weekend has contacted the Barker family direct and given them some information about this matter. That particular piece of information will be fully investigated.
Inspector, there's a $50,000 reward to help find Shane's killer. So what's your special appeal tonight?
We, as police, obviously would love closure. The Barker family themselves are pleading for closure, and the whole town of Campbelltown has been shaken by this whole matter. 4 years on, we still haven't apprehended the killer. I implore anyone out there with any information to contact police, Crime Stoppers. It can be anonymous. Just please get in touch with us and talk to us about this matter.
Absolutely. Inspector Scott Flood, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, mate.
And of course, if you can help with information on Shane's murder, police around Australia are waiting for your call. A Crime Stoppers update after the break on Wanted. Welcome back. Now an update from Crime Stoppers. And to get the very latest on the calls police have taken tonight, let's go to our seasoned crime reporter, Neil Mercer. Neil?
Thanks, Sandra. I can tell you that there's been a 400% increase in the number of calls as against a normal Monday night. That's a terrific result. The calls from around the country. Joining me now is New South Wales Senior Sergeant Alex Cooney. Alex, we've seen a big spike in the number of calls.
Definitely a big spike tonight, both online and over the phone, so great result.
Do you expect that to continue in the coming hours?
Yeah, that's going to continue on for the rest of the evening, so please be patient on those phones. Don't forget to report online, crimestoppers.com.au.
OK, Senior Sergeant, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
Back
Neil.
to you, Sandra.
Thank you, Neil. Great result there. Let's hope it continues. Now to a final crime hit from our crime buster, Terry Dalton.
Our last crime hit comes with a warning, a health warning for the crooks involved. They nicked copper piping, which was encased in lead, from a business in Adelaide, 2,500 kilos of it. This is the truck they stole, and here's a catch. That lead casing is carcinogenic. Anyone who comes into contact with it will get very sick indeed. So if you know a crook who's become unexpectedly crook, or anyone trying to offload a heap of copper, get onto the coppers. Call Crime Stoppers right now.
Thanks, Terry. That Crime Stoppers number again is 1800 333 000, so please remember it well. And of course, you can report crime online via the Crime Stoppers website. Your information is vital. Well, that's it for the very first episode of Wanted. On behalf of all the team, Xanthe, Matt, Terry and of course Neil, have a great night, and remember, keeping our community safe is everyone's responsibility. So, if you see something, say something. Good night.